Back to Photoshop Chapter 3. This is Section B. And when last I left you off, you had a selection around this plate. Now, if you released your mouse button and the selection did not look quite right and you had everything selected, but you still couldn't get everything where you wanted it, I want to make a notice up here that there is a feather. If you have messed around with anything else in Photoshop prior to this, your feather may have been selected. And what would happen with that, in fact, let me show you quickly. I'll do a deselect and let me show you exactly what happens with this. If I put a feather on here, I'm going to put a 20 pixel feather and I'll redraw my selection tool. And when I go to move this, and I'm going to undo. Do you see how you get this soft edge? That's what the feather does. It's not what we're wanting, so I'm going to undo that, and I will actually go back in and remake my selection. But I just wanted to show you that in case that came up when you tried to move anything, or if you noticed before you moved it that you have a feather on there. That's not what we're wanting at this point. That comes in very handy for some other items, but not for making this selection. So I will be right back as soon as I get my selection remade, and we'll continue. And I'm back with my selection remade, and I am going to use a keyboard shortcut to move our selected pixels onto the shadow box. I would like to first go up to View, and I want to fit in Screen. There we go. And rather than going up and grabbing my Move tool, I'm simply going to hold down the Control key on the window, or it's going to be the Command key with your Mac, which changes my icon from the marquee to a pair of scissors with the black pointer. So I can now grab my selection and move that and place it up on the decorative board. And again, notice here I have my background filled in there, and I am going to all I have to do to move this is hold down the Control key, and I can slide this around until I'm happy with the placement of it. We can release our mouse. Still don't deselect your plate of shells. We can make minor adjustments by using the arrow keys. So now you're going to, rather than your mouse, you have the arrow keys available. Even though the selection tool is still active in the tool panel, because we use the Control key and we've moved the object, it has now kind of automatically become the Move tool. And whenever your Move tool is active, your arrow keys are going to move both the selection and it, you know, the border, the marching ants thing, and the content. So you can use the arrow keys to nudge your plate until you're happy with the placement of it. Make sure you're still selected, but you can press the up key to move the oval upward, the down. If you hold down your shift key as you're moving, it will jump like in a 10 pixel jump. Otherwise, you're moving a single pixel every time you move the one of the arrow keys. Sometimes the border can distract you. If you want to not see the selection border, you can remove it temporarily. If you go to View, go to Show, and click off Selection Edges. It still isn't placed. It's still active. All we've done is we've shut down that marching ant for the moment. So you can nudge that around again. And after you're finished, please go back up, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult for you to do this. Go back to Show and reselect your showing edges, and then you can deselect. Control or Command D is going to deselect the area for you, and now you can't pick that up. That selection is now part of the background image and you are committed. Save again, and then we're going to move on to using the Magic Wand tool. The Magic Wand tool will select all of the pixels of a particular color or a color range. It's very useful if you want to select an area that has similar colors around it. You can make your initial selection and then add or subtract areas from that selection. The tolerance option sets the sensitivity for the Magic Wand tool. I'm going to first of all zoom into the coral at the bottom. I'm going to pick up the Magic Wand tool, which is under there. There it is, and there is a tolerance. The default tolerance value probably may have come up for you, which is 32. It selects colors plus whatever color you pick on plus 32 lighter and 32 darker tones of that same color. So you're getting about double. So right now my tolerance says 10, so I would get 10 shades darker and 10 shades lighter of that color. You can adjust the tolerance level depending on the color range and the variations that you have within an image. A multicolor area that you want to select against a background of a different color, it might be easier to select the background instead of the area that's at, that you wanted to use. So what we're going to do is use the combination of this. We are going to actually use the rectangular marquee tool, and we're going to select an area surrounding the coral. We don't want all of that white. So right now the coral and the white background is selected, but we're going to subtract the pure white, which is going to be a whole lot easier to get rid of. So now that I've picked up my Magic Wand tool, I am going to press my Alt button. My Alt key gives me the minus, or taking away from a selection, and I'm going to click to select. The book tells you to use a tolerance value of 32. I picked a lower tolerance value. Actually, from this, it's going to be fine. By the way, you can also make your selections up here. You have add to selection, subtracts from selection. So you can pick on that, or you can use the keyboard shortcut, which is your Alt button. And anything that you select then is subtracted, and all I have selected now is my coral. With the Move tool now, I'm going to drag the coral to the shadow box labeled C. So I'm going to zoom out, move, but you can get your move, the hand tool by pressing your space bar. And again, I'm going to hold down my control key, which gives me the move tool, and I'm going to place my coral up above. I'm going to zoom in and use my arrow keys to place my coral where I would like it. Then I'm going to deselect and save. Control D, File, and Save. Please make sure that you read on page 62 the section about softening the edges of a selection that talks about the feathering. You can use a refined edge, anti-alias, the feather that we talked about covers that really well. I'm not going to go over that now. You can do the reading. The next thing we're going to do is work with selecting with the lasso tool. The three lasso tools, there, remember, there's the polygon, the magnetic, and the freehand lasso tool. You can use those to make selections that require both freehand and straight lines. You can use the keyboard shortcuts to move back and forth between the lasso tool and the polygon lasso tool. So now we're going to use the lasso tool to select the mussel. So zoom out and scroll down to the mussel, and we're going to zoom into that, and we will work on selecting it. It's pretty well defined. Grab your lasso tool, the regular lasso tool. Now, I am not going to be watching over your shoulder. The lasso tool, I think, is a royal pain. You click and you just click and drag. So basically anywhere you drag with your mouse. I am not the steadiest hand for doing this. I don't like using the lasso tool. What I prefer using is the polygon and the magnetic lasso. So if you start with your lasso tool and just get a little ways on it, keep your mouse button held. You can then press your Alt button, and I now get my polygon lasso, and I can click with that. I can hold down my mouse key, hold down my Alt button again. Okay, so I'm going back and forth between the polygon tool and the lasso tool, but again, I don't particularly care for either one of those. I would rather actually go on this one with the magnetic lasso tool. The magnetic lasso tool allows you to click and drag, and the magnet is going to pick up according to the changes of the pixels. And it gets a little bit better because this has a well-defined area. You still have to follow the muscle and click periodically, particularly if you're in a tricky area. But I'm sorry, I just don't really like the regular lasso tool. I find it's tedious. I find it difficult to pick up, and I'm not going to be watching over your shoulder to see that you are using. Now here, this one, if on the using the magnetic lasso tool, if this doesn't want to, if it wants to try and bounce down to something that you don't want selected, move your mouse back up and click more often. I find this a much easier way to make a selection than using the regular lasso tool. And I'd rather use something that's going to work a little bit easier for you. And once that's selected, you can then move your mouse, deselect, but you do have to click and click and click. And when you get back to where you see that hollow point, you want to click on there so you close your selection and you have a complete selection.